Welcome back to season 3 of Comic Book Nation, the official podcast of Comicbook.com. I'm your host, Kofi Outlaw, and we're going to start the show a little differently today because we're coming to the end of season 3 of the show. We only got a couple more of these to do, and I just want to take a minute of appreciation. It's the holiday season, and I just want to say before we begin, thank you to all of our listeners, all of you wonderful fans. We have a bunch that I'm going to name drop when we get to the end of the show, but I want to thank you guys for just being with us, for being here today, because it's a good day. We have content, big, awesome geek content. This has been a full week of just getting back to big geekdom again, and, you know, I was tweeting it out, but I have a new appreciation for this after the year and a half we've just had. It is so good to be back in this space and to be back here. And with all of you who are listening and in the theaters and watching and just participating and sharing with everybody. And yeah, man, I know we're supposed to be hardened industry vets, and cynical types.
Not
of the show.
me.
Yeah, not you.
But I just also, can we just say, like, shout outs to everyone working at Comic Book, because you guys
Yo, everybody chill out on that.
Ever since, stop.
Yeah, we're going to get to that.
Take the love.
Get to that.
You guys have been working your butts off, and this has been a really hectic week, and I'm just, like, shocked at the amount of content that's going out. Yeah. And, you know, I'm over here, like, on the side watching from my little Twitch corner. I'm really impressed with you guys. Like, you're bossing it out.
Thanks. Everybody keep doing your jobs. Love you. But yeah, we show love to all our comic book staff, but you know, they don't like us. They keep us with the horse blinders, otherwise we'll stop typing as fast. So we can't have that. But to that end, we are going to be doing this show in 2 distinct halves. Let's get to it. So that was our appreciation. So back to the cynical, hardened edges. We got 2 halves of a show today. So we're keeping it spoiler free because we're in a weird position. We got to get to, you know, the whole geek culture, and we don't want to ruin everything. We know Spider-Man No Way Home is here. Nicole and I and Matt have seen it.
What? Matt, you got to see it?
Matt knows things. Don't worry about Matt. Just fall back.
Oh, I'm so happy.
You were like the gym of this show already. Just fall back. So we are going to break down Spider-Man No Way Home, you guys. We are going to jump into it, but we are going to save that for the end of the show, so that everybody who has not seen it cannot be spoiled. We want you guys to have this, experience it, and to enjoy it. So we are going to save all the Spider-Man No Way Home, the big stuff from Hawkeye, all of this Marvel stuff we got to get into until the second half of the show from the safety of the ad break. We're going to give you guys a big warning to find the exit when it's the ad break, and so no spoilers for anybody who wants to have that experience. But we also got to release this podcast over the weekend when this movie is going to be opening and people's minds are going to be blown and they're going to be looking for things to talk about and listen to people discussing. We got to be there. So we're going to be there. So 2 distinct halves of the show. We're like Two-Face today. All right. So let's get to the Harvey Dent part. We did an early review of Witcher last week, but Matt was the only one who got the joys of seeing it, him being our Witcher expert. But now The Witcher Season 2 is here, The Witcher. So don't get lost.
Witcher!
All this Spider-Man goodness going in the theater. Yeah, The Witcher's back. And
it is.
I'm going to get kicked off by saying it is better than ever. Matt did not lie. Sometimes I wonder when he tells us things on this show, but you didn't lie to us this time, buddy. Like, The Witcher Season 2 is here, and immediately I've just into the first 2 episodes because I've been busy doing Spider-Man stuff, like, and running around. But immediately the difference is palpable. Like Matt said, there's a bigger budget, but it's not the money. The Witcher is one of those shows that we talk about when we discuss comics here, which is sometimes you have to do those setup issues that are really just like, you know, they can be confusing or just not boring, but just full of expository stuff. But it's all the setup you need to get to like the really good stuff. Well, The Witcher Season 1 had, you know, the difference between Season 1 and Season 2, let's just make this quick because we got save time, is when you put these characters together and they begin to interact with more characters and have those interactions, this show is exponentially better, like right out of the gate, as opposed to just going through this 3 separate storylines of Geralt, you know, I butcher all these names, but the little girl, the witch, and Ciri, and
the little girl.
Yeah,
I love her. The little girl.
I always want to call her Circe. It's really good.
Me too. I always want to call her Circe.
I feel like Ciri's trademarked. I only use that in one place now. So anyway, that's first world problems. But anyway, so like when you see them interacting now and just having Geralt and Ciri paired together is already a better show, just like right off the bat. And so That's my takeaway from the early episodes of Witcher. And I was unexpectedly, in all the Spider-Man Marvel hype, I was unexpectedly surprised about how happy I was to have The Witcher back as well. So good week.
Man, you gotta have something after the Spidey, right? You gotta have something in between screenings. and this is perfect. It's perfect spot for that. No, and that was the one I actually recommended. Like, if you're gonna sample, I've seen a couple comments of like, do I try it out or not? If you're gonna sample just 1 or 2 episodes, those first 2 episodes are actually perfect because they do a really good job of setting the tone. Like, if you don't like those first 2, I don't think you're gonna like the rest of the season. You know what I mean? There's a lot of that, especially as they get to Kaer Morhen and they're bouncing back and forth. You're meeting the other Witchers, but it's that Geralt and Ciri. It's just that dynamic that like you didn't get last year because they didn't come together until the final 5 minutes of the finale. So now you get it from the very beginning, and Nivellen is perfect. And it's so magical, and like Verena with the creepy. I saw someone reference the Bat Lady was creepy. Yes, that was that. I thought they did that extremely well. Like they didn't go overboard, but it was just creepy enough. Like I was like, oh hey, the creepy crawly stuff gets me every time. Like that stuff gets me, and like eye twitches and things. But like the whole point of that story though is like it's kind of like a tragic love story too. So I just thought they nailed that angle. There are a lot of fun things to talk about. We will get into like a spoiler filled breakdown of the show later on once everyone's had a chance to see it and everything. I am truly excited for season 3, very much so. But season 2 is like what I was hoping for, and it's that thing that Kofi said. It's like you get to right off the bat, it hits the ground running. People that love the Yennefer side of things might not be like as enthused until like the latter half of the season, because like she plays a part in earlier episodes, but not like a huge part. And Jaskier is the same way. Like people that love the Bard, he's not in it a ton as you would hope. But you know, later on in the season, he does come back around. So there are, you know, some people will have their own quibbles and things like that. But overall, man, I was so happy.
Yeah, agreed. I feel like we're just over here singing praises, but I was really, really excited about this. I've watched episode 1 and 2. You're right about Yennefer, but I don't mind her storyline, and I'm I'm curious to see where it goes. So
she holds down her scenes.
Yeah, I still feel satisfied.
She really holds it down on her.
Yeah, and obviously, like, I just feel like our lead, he's just so good in that role, like as Witcher. And honestly, this show, the second season has made me go, okay, this is not my style of game that I normally play, but I'm so enticed by this performance and the show that I'm straight up gonna play Witcher. I can't believe it. I'm gonna have to put it on like easy mode, but I'm still like, even if I just don't play it on stream in front of people, like I want to experience this. I want to go deeper into it. So
sweet.
I got you to toss some coins to the Witcher. There it is. There you go.
I did ask Joey Beatty, by the way, about that song, and I was like, dude, have you? Because we did an interview with him, and I was like, have you outlawed that from like all gatherings now? Because like it was everywhere, and he was like, yes, I have. I've turned it into a drinking game.
Oh like, my gosh,
it was a catchy song though.
And Damon Streams in the chat said, I still haven't seen The Witcher yet. Is it worth watching? 100%.
Oh, yeah,
even
100%.
The first season was it was good. Like, I loved the first season. It gets even better. Definitely binge it, for sure.
Yeah,
I highly recommend.
Weird fantasy horror, and the deeper you get, like, very kind of, I think if people were still on Game of Thrones when it first came out, but we're past that now. So, like, it is this weird kind of horror fantasy kind of coming together, and yeah, man, it gets better and better. So just definitely check that out, because like Matt said, after all the Spideying, you're gonna need to do something, and this is a good thing. Nicole, we're not leaving you out. I know you already said you and the hubby are gonna sit down and take a Witcher, and we appreciate saving some stuff away from this rabid mob to you enjoy by yourself. So
I appreciate. Thank you.
We're going to move on because we're just going to take some quick stops. I put this in here at the last minute because I know Nicole is on here, and Nicole is Nicole's one of our experts on like DC, Marvel, comics, all this other stuff. Did you check out the first episode of Naomi? I put through that.
It?
Jenna has. I did not know if you had.
I actually have not seen it. I was waiting to see what Jenna thought of it. But I will say this: I am extremely. There were two things that came out or coming out in the near future. That Jen and I were both very excited about. One was HBO Max's Station 11, and the other is Naomi. And so I was kind of deep into Station 11. She was deep into Naomi, and I think we're just gonna flop now that we've both written our reviews. I didn't want to taint myself until I heard what she thought about it, because Jenna and I do a lot of screaming at each other over text message about the things that we love. So I will say this: if you've seen the teaser trailers for it, and if it's even remotely as good as those, I think we're all going to die of happiness, because this looks so good. It just looks so
excited.
good.
Naomi rules, man. Like,
absolutely. And like
character rules.
I love the character. I love the comics. Like, and just from the teaser trailer alone, I feel like they have nailed that character and that story. And I am just dying. I have the screener. It's one of those things like I'm holding as my treasure to watch this weekend as well, because I've got a little time to myself. And I'm just like, I thought they dropped that trailer earlier this week, and I was just like, oh, if this show is even remotely as good as this trailer, it is good. So I am.
It is good.
And the cast, they got Stephanie March. I mean, Law and Order fans, you need to watch.
Unite. That's right.
Right. There you go.
You knew
By
I
the
was
way,
going to bring Law and Order into this. You knew
that's because that is the way things
Nicole
are.
is also one of our powerhouse DC Marvel Comics people with Jenna, who's over on Phase Zero, our cousin podcast, who will also be dropping on this stream today, because they're going all in on just pure. They're our Marvel podcast, so obviously they're going all in on Spider-Man as well. So you can check
I will be
Jenna out
running
later
away.
Today. So Phase Zero will be doing this, but you guys knock out a bunch of stuff for us. So I want to make sure we got some Naomi exposure on here since you were here, Nicole. Thank you. So so read Jenna's review. It's on Comicbook.com DC, because we also got Naomi, another good DC show. So there you go.
So much good
week,
DC
man.
content
We're so
coming,
back
man.
in abundance. That's what I did to check. I was like, wait a minute. DC is still
Merry
out here
Christmas
kind of bubbling. Yeah. So next year's going to be a big rep for us.
Superman and Lois.
Yeah. Phase
More
Zero had a
Superman.
good year this year, because it's been a very Marvel year, but
I'm just saying, next year, man. Yeah. Next year and the next year. Blue Beetle, Batgirl, more Superman and Lois, Naomi, so much good stuff. Yes.
All right. So, Nicole, we'll be seeing you a lot next year. So
I'm here.
Let's get to the Kingsman. So I got an early review of the Kingsman to knock out for you guys. I got to see this early and do the review for Comicbook.com. It's over on Comicbook.com movie. To keep things short and sweet, The Kingsman is the prequel to Kingsman, The Secret Service, and a sequel, Kingsman, The Golden Circle. And out of the three movies in the franchise now, I think that The Kingsman, and I saw this with like Brandon Davis, Chris Killian, everybody, and I think we all I'm pretty sure we all agreed, I don't want to speak for those guys, but that this lands in the middle of the franchise. Okay. It is better than Kingsman, The Golden Circle, but not as good as Kingsman, The Secret Service. And it's not because The Kingsman suffers. What this is kind of a weird, I don't know if this was just something that got lost in the pandemic, the Disney thing with 20th Century Fox becoming 20th Century Studios. I don't know where this movie went, but it's very much, or they just didn't know how to sell it. But I feel like that's been a problem with Fox Games, because I don't think people sold Free Guy really well for what that was either, for what a gem that turned out to be. But I don't think they knew how to market The Kingsman, and that's fair, because it is a very weird, strange choice. First of all, this is Matthew Vaughn, who did, X-Men First Class, Layer Cake, and all the Kingsman movies. He's never made sequels before this franchise. He was like totally against it, but he's done it now twice. But this is one of his weirdest films yet, because this is very much a serious like World War I drama for much of it, and very much not like a Kingsman movie with the kind of Bond over the top, with a raunchy edge to it, thanks to Mark Millar. Like it's very much a serious war drama, and it's about Ralph Fiennes' character, the Duke of Oxford, trying to honor this thing from this very kind of tragic Batman style past that he had in his family, and trying to keep his son Conrad out of the armed services as Europe is becoming increasingly destabilized by these three brothers, Prince Wilhelm, the Kaiser, and, and King Henry, which is all real history, right? Like if you know anything about World War I and all the crazy stuff that happened, the tragic comedy of events that led to the most horrific war, one of them. This is very much a rumination, like an examination of that. But then it also is a Kingsman prequel. So eventually, like, it has to transition into the crazy comic book spy type deal. So it is a weird, uneven package that you're getting. And it's 2 hours and it feels very much like 2 hours. And you're like, because like I said, some of this is like a little bit like Schindler's Listy, not in the sense because not like about like just setting people to die and trying to stay out of it. And like, where do you get in all this middle? Like, is there a middle ground? It's all this real serious, like European war stuff, history stuff. But then it's also a Kingsman movie at the end. And the Kingsman stuff is actually some of the best. Like Vaughn's gotten really good at this. So the Kingsman team that we get in this prequel, Ralph Fiennes, Jaimon Hanzu, Gemma Atherton, like they're the best Kingsman team in the franchise. Like in the team action stuff they do in this movie is the best action in the franchise. But like, yeah, the drama stuff is really unexpected, but because it's Ralph Fiennes, it's still good. It's just like you didn't expect like a World War I historical drama when you walked in, but that's what you get. And there's some real serious stuff that happens in that. So weird kind of prequel, but at the end, it establishes why the Kingsman is so solemn and so important and like what that's all about and how deep its roots are. So weird movie, in a weird time to release it. Like it's going to get eaten up. I feel bad for this movie because people put in like real performances and they're great. Gemma Atherton and Jaimon Hanzu are great in this. But yeah, I mean, there's Spider-Man, Matrix is coming out on the same day this comes out. Like this is way down on the matinee list. Let's just be clear, but it is a matinee. So check that out, Kingsman fans. And sorry I couldn't report better than that. All right, we got to move because we're going to get through comics before we take our big ad break and come back and do the second half of this show. So let's try to keep this pretty tight. But Matt, comics.
All right, let's get into it. So we're going to start with Robin and Batman #2. This was the poll. Thank you, everyone, for voting. As always.
Can I ask, why did DC do this right before the holidays with this issue?
I'm with you.
Why does DC like this?
Why? What do you mean? I'm curious.
This is like I'm beginning to love this book a lot, Robin and Batman, but this is like one of the saddest Batman stories I think I've ever. And I don't know if it got me in like the parent feels because of like, I'm on that thing where I have a 3-year-old son and I'm like good dad and evil dad is like a real dilemma for me right now because we're in that phase of like testing the 2 phases of your parenthood. But like, yeah, that's deep. I'm getting off in my own stuff.
No.
I completely understand.
Yeah. Nicole, I know Nicole understands, and like, yeah. But this was like really like a messed up. Like, I mean, it really kind of got me to the core about Batman and Robin's relationship, and it's just like
it's crazy too because this issue. And by the way, spoilers incoming for these next 3 books. So FY, this one very much we all liked kind of how the Alfred Bruce dynamic and how Dick is being parented and things like that this first issue explored. And then this issue seems very delightful and very lighthearted for like 90% of the issue.
Yeah.
It's very lulls you into this thing of like, oh my God, he's like getting to know the Teen Titans. And oh man, he's like finding people that like he can like identify with.
I was like so excited.
Bruce is giving him his suit and all this stuff.
Okay, I feel like we got to give context to people who haven't read the comics. So this is Robin and Batman #2.
Robin and Batman #2.
It's a series that looks at the formative days of Robin, Dick Grayson becoming Robin.
He's turning 12 in the book.
Yeah, but from the perspective of Robin this time, and this story is about and this issue deals with the first about Batman being hard on Robin, and it's Robin's birthday, and as a birthday present, Batman takes him to the Justice League Watchtower, lets him meet the Justice League, and lets him hang out with the kids, the sidekicks who will become the Teen Titans, right?
Right.
And then there's a twist at the end of this.
And then and it all feeds, by the way, this book does a really good job of like, if you ever question the importance of Alfred amongst the Bat family, this series, I mean, Jeff Lemire has done a really good job of pointing that out, highlighting that. Like they have a great little moment in the limo, like after he beats some kids up at school, like Alfred really is the person that raised him, and Bruce is the person that trained him. That is really the dynamic they're setting up. And sometimes in other books that can get kind of messy, but like that really is what happened, right? So here he gets to go, and like Bruce goes with the other Justice League members on a mission and leaves them there. And there's this great little sequence where like sneaking by Hawkman, who has to stay.
Hawkman was great in this.
That was so perfect.
And like they're having this cool thing, and then they go on missions and all that, and then they come back, and like no one's the wiser, right? Now you figure, okay, maybe Bruce knows, because like Bruce always knows,
Yeah.
right? So
Bruce
you
knows
think maybe
everything.
that's coming, and then at some point he goes mission debrief before like Robin gets to walk away, right? When they get back to the cave, and then Robin proceeds to give him a rundown on every single person that he interacted with, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are.
Yeah,
and
it's basically
essentially-
Batman's Tower of Babel act,
Yeah,
right?
it
Like,
was, hey, evaluate your peers and figure out what makes them tick. And like he
how to
did
kill
that.
them if you needed to. Yeah.
And the best part after that is because it's so wrong. It's so wrong because then he's like, good boy, you know, like good soldier, you know what I mean? And he walks away, and Alfred's like says something I can't say here, which I love, and he's saying it for all of us. And it's just, I love seeing it. It really paints a real picture of what this would probably be in real life if you had someone as
Messed up as
kind of
Batman.
what's the word to describe Batman if that were a person in real life? You know what I mean?
Dysfunctional.
Emotionally closed off.
Yeah.
Sociopathic.
But
even,
but at the same time, what's messed up about it is from a parenting perspective, I get what Batman's doing.
Yeah.
Because his point is so valid. They are
It
like
is.
the two humans, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
and if he's ever to run with these people, it's not just for that, it's for any level of that kind of threat
Yeah.
he's training
Mhm.
for, because like he realizes if he's gonna be running with them, like he's got to be able to take down superpowered people and think like this and do this. And it just makes the Batman Robin thing so messy, like in a way that Frank Miller was just like a blunt instrument, and this is just like a precision tool at kind of
that was what Miller was going for. This is what it should have been. And this has so far been really excellent. But I agree, it's all for those things. It just explores this relationship in a very different way. Moving on, because I know we gotta move. But before I do that, Janelle, Nicole, what do you guys think? Did you like the issue?
I loved the issue. I'm with Kofi there. Like from the parent perspective, I understand a little bit of where Bruce is coming from, because sometimes you do have to be that hard parent, but at the same time, I'm also like, go Alfred, because God bless Alfred. He is so underappreciated. But the art in this issue, I absolutely love the art. I feel like the art captured both the joy of the fun he had on his birthday, and then you could just feel the tone shift in the art. Even if you couldn't read the words, you could see the tonal shift. And I just thought that was absolutely brilliant. It's a brilliant pairing of the words and art in this specific issue.
Agreed.
Yeah, really quick. I just didn't take it that seriously. I just had fun with it. And I'm not a parent, so I was just kind of like, dude, hell yeah. Like I was like about Batman like doing that at the end. I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like I was really
you gotta train Yondu to stand up to that pit bull in the neighborhood. You'll see.
But yeah, I didn't feel like the heaviness. I just dug the whole thing, and at the end I liked it because it felt like a little bit of a twist, and I was like, yeah.
No, yeah,
superheroes.
And that's why I love our dynamic, right? So that's why I love it. Moving on to Batgirls, #1, which I was very excited about. I've been waiting for this book for a minute.
If you haven't seen it, DC wanted you to know Batgirls is coming out.
Yes. And now here's the thing. I don't know how you missed it because they've had previews and like it feels like the last 3 weeks of DC issues of this book. But this focuses on, for those who aren't aware or who haven't been reading, some of the future state stuff. This very much is probably the closest tie that is still there because of the seer and some of the magistrate stuff. While the magistrate has been shut down, there's kind of, now we have like this offshoot of them, and so this book very much is still kind of dealing with some of the fallout as opposed to some of the other books which have like completely moved on. But the status quo here is that someone has taken over the Oracle network. Barbara doesn't have access to it. She's essentially been locked out. They've been framed for things they did not do. So they're kind of on the run. So this kind of takes Barbara out of her techno wizardry, can do anything from, it's just a computer, and kind of puts her out into the world in a little bit different way. And then we have Stephanie Brown and Cassandra Cain, who are essentially move in with her. So they're all three kind of living together, trying to keep things under the radar, but also be who they are. This book is in polar opposite to Robin and Batman, which I felt like had this, there's a lot of things you can read into that. I just really enjoyed this for just being kind of fun and some of the back and forth between Stephanie and Cassandra has gotten really good over the years, depending on who the creative team is. Here, they're just fun. Like I smiled at numerous times between just their banter back and forth, and Cassandra like beating up a bunch of thugs because they took her robe. Even afterwards, though, she led like through the fight at first to keep a low profile, and then later goes back and beats them all up to get her favorite robe. Right? I just love that stuff. They're back in Bondo, like naming the car that she stole from the thugs. Like I love that stuff. Barbara kind of getting used to this. They're in like a really shady part of town. They're in a rundown apartment. They have bunk beds, but they're so excited for that. There's a lot of really fun stuff here. It's not the most like critical thing to the Bat mythos right now that you'll read. And if you were, it's not a must read, but I really enjoyed it for what it was. Cassandra does feel kind of different, or no, sorry, not Cassandra. Stephanie feels kind of different than the spoiler we've had in like recent, like over like the past year. Like she does feel more jovial than the spoiler I remember. Right. Like it's just not in a bad way, just in a different way. It feels like, oh, that's not who I've been reading for like a year and a half. But I still enjoyed it. What'd you guys think?
I loved it. I've spent a lot of time in the Fear State. I do a lot of Batman everything, and I've spent a lot of time in that storyline to the point I was like, someone please get me out of here. It's starting to be grim, and this book is just delightful. There's this it's the whole dynamic of Barbara as this almost like out of her depths, slight like older sister kind of dynamic with these two, like the two kids who are just like, ooh, we're gonna go beat up some bad guys and steal a car. Like that's the kind of like Batgirl's adventure that I would want, even in this grim little backdrop of what they're dealing with. And it's just so precious because it's shenanigans. This book can be boiled down to Batgirl shenanigans. And I love it. It doesn't diminish the Batgirls for who they are, but it's just such a refreshing palate cleanser for everything else that has gone on in Fear Street and Magistrate and like all of the that has been the Batman line for so long. So it's just fun. It's just so much fun.
Yeah, that's what I appreciated most, I think, was just that it was so different comparative, even to the current. I mean, even with the current Batman run, which is a little more, it has a little more humor than like the previous one. That's still, this is just so fun. What do you guys think, Kofi and Janelle?
I'm not going to add too much because we got to keep it moving, but I thought it was a lot better than even the preview pages made it seem. Like the Batgirl, the dynamic between all the Batgirls is what the title implies, and it delivers on that. And how they kind of face Gotham and do that is a lot different. And as Nicole said, refreshing compared to the rest of where the Bat franchise kind of is now.
For sure. Janelle?
Yeah, I didn't really know like what they were talking about, the clock tower getting destroyed and things like that, because I don't have that context, but I was okay with it. Like I figured it out fast enough. So that was good. And obviously, like, dude, the art was so cool and the costumes were amazing. And I'm like, oh my God, I want to cosplay as these chicks. So they won me over for sure.
Yeah, no, and Nicole brought it up. Jorge Corona and Sarah Stern, art and colors. This book is just so pretty. It's just so fun. It fits the vibe perfectly. So yeah, definitely Batgirls is recommend. And then moving on to Hulk number 2. Hulk number 1 was bonkers in the best way. Hulk number 2 essentially picks up from where we see like Hulk Starship. That's such a weird thing to say. Hulk Starship moving through that unknown portal, and then somehow things get weirder. And we, it's this back and forth between Bruce kind of talking to himself, talking to Betty, and he's like encountering things that are like maybe able to take him down, which is not something.
I don't think this is something you can verbally describe to people.
It's so weird. It's so hard. Okay, here's
like
okay,
you might as well just stop. Like we're getting to bad radio territory.
The coolest part is all the stuff with the Hulk and the Hulk engine, because this book is just like gorgeous. Like Otley is just killing this book. The fact that we get monsters to power, we get Hulk versus monsters, and then we get Hulk versus literal giant-sized Wolverine, which is like the coolest thing. I loved the visual. I loved the meta-ness of it. That was super fun. It's awesome. And then we get him meeting another Banner. And it seems like it's this alternate universe Banner.
I don't think anybody who's
cool.
not seeing this is going to understand. You're like
it's
describing.
So wackadoodles. It is wackadoodles, and I love it. I love it. So
I'm going to boil this down to this first concept was interesting but crazy, and this book and this, I think this issue just doubled down on the crazy from the moment Hulk flies through some weird in between dimension populated by this group of Guardians that get shredded by him in a second. I was like, okay, we're in a very different kind of Hulk book now. Like, and I'm not sure, like, I'm literally and figuratively just not sure where we're at and like where we're going with this. And this one was kind of just like, whoa, okay, wait, I got to wait and see on this. Like, yeah.
I saw in the comments, we've seen a couple of things of like, it's a lot. And it is absolutely a lot. If you're looking for a more, but then again, so was Immortal Hulk. If you really look at the whole like arc of that book,
we're not going down the wormhole on this.
It's a weird book.
It's a lot.
But I really sometimes certain types of bonkers are for you, and this bonkers is for me. I'm eating this up with a spoon. What do you guys think, Nicole and Janelle?
I actually haven't read it, so I read the first one. You're right, bonkers. So you're interested.
We should do a live watch of you reading it.
CBS does not spend their money that way.
But yeah, I know we're just like on a time crunch, but it's bananas. This book, I'm obsessed. I really am. I'm obsessed with this. I'm probably gonna reread both of them because it's just so enjoyable and so cool. Yeah.
I love this book. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's comics.
Right. Yeah, that's comics. All right, guys, that's it. So we are going to take a break. When we come back, it is the second half of the show. Now, you got a little bit more time. We're going to do Hawkeye. People have asked in the chat, and we're going to respond to you. We will do Hawkeye episode 5 first, and then use that as a very natural segue into our Spider-Man discussion. So when we go back, we are going to go in full in Marvel stuff. We'll start with Hawkeye to give you guys a little bit more time before the Spider-Man stuff. Be right back. And send. I typed in as many G's and LFG as I could before the intro video was up. So however many you see in the comment section, that's how many I had. All right. Hawkeye. We're going to go into Marvel stuff. Yeah, we're going into Marvel stuff now, starting with Hawkeye, Spider-Man No Way Home to follow. So Hawkeye, episode 5. First of all, I mean, if we don't have a team show with Kate Bishop and Yelena kind of at the forefront of that, Marvel's not doing it right.
Seriously.
Macaroni and cheese scene. I mean, macaroni and cheese Instant Mac sales are going to boost after this, and with good reason. Yeah, this was a good sale for why Florence Pugh is in the MCU, because it rhymes and it's awesome. And her and Haley Steinfeld, just getting a Florence Pugh, Haley Steinfeld scene, Heat style. Like, I mean, that's great if you know that Heat reference. But yeah, that was great stuff. I enjoyed that. Hawkeye's been doing great things with the action and stuff. But come on, we'll just start at the end we'll go backwards because everybody wants to get to the big stuff. So let's start with the big stuff. Big Willie himself is back. The Kingpin. Kingpin is back in the MCU.
So,
Our boy Vincent D'Onofrio. Janelle tried to soft confirm for you guys 2 shows ago. But she said she reached out to VDO and was just like, "Yay!"
I told you I'd try.
Yeah.
I still put it out there. I was like, "Hey, I'd get a lot of street cred if you came on." I'm just letting you know. So who knows? Well,
Yeah. So the end of Hawkeye reveals that Eleanor Bishop, Kate's mom, is working with the Kingpin or for the Kingpin. Nobody works with the Kingpin, I don't think. But works for the Kingpin. And we got that on a grainy cell phone video, which you gotta love Marvel. Kevin Feige is just
I love how that's the big confirm.
He's one part genie. Yeah, he's one part genie and one part just like
I was too afraid.
3-card Monty.
I didn't believe it. I was just kind of like, I'm not gonna believe this until I like actually hear it out of the horse's mouth.
Yeah. No, man. It's him, and he's got the cane, y'all. Did you zoom in? He's got the cane. He's got the white suit, and we've got the questions, you know? So our Marvel DC experts on Comicbook.com went in on this. Is the MCU Netflix going to be canon? Probably not, because Mahershala Ali's Blade, and he can't be Blade and Cottonmouth, so probably not. You know, that kind of puts a damper in things. There's more to this conversation, obviously, but we're going to get to that later. But yeah, we're going to probably get a new Kingpin. You know, I'm sure Kevin Feige is always gracious. And eventually when this whole Secret Wars we got maybe definitely shaping up is figured out, I'm sure Marvel Netflix will be its own universe with its own assignment, just like kind of DC did with Final Crisis, and had a lot of fun with that and laid down that precedent. So Marvel Netflix will still get honored, just like I'm sure Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will one day get its own, kind of way to fit in there. But right now, I think it's safe to assume this is a new Kingpin. But Adam Barnhart pointed out, should it even matter? We got Vincent D'Onofrio back as Kingpin.
That's the victory.
Like the new actor flex, because I remember the old actor flex is like being on stage and like we get immediate feedback from the crowd, and that's like that's the drug. Now the new drug is my part I did so well that nobody can let go of it, and they bring me back because they can't get anybody. That's the new actor flex.
That's really cool.
Well deserved. So, yeah, I mean, the amount of doors this opens is poof. I mean, it's large. Kingpin's not only back, but apparently, like, he's running an even bigger criminal empire than we ever got in the Marvel.
Can we just say too that like they do such a good job of building up his reputation in like a matter of like 2 minutes with that conversation between Clint and and like his wife, like that alone, it's like, oh man, the big guy, like I think it's it. Like they do such a good job in like just that 35-second thing of building him up, which would have taken some things like 6 episodes to build up, like that kind of whatever. And you get that just here. Oh man, it might be the person we're thinking about. And then you're good. You're already invested and you're like, yeah, he's a big deal. Like they've done such a good job of that, because we are coming off of a place where like, yes, a lot of people know Vincent D'Onofrio played Kingpin in the Netflix Daredevil series, but like there are a lot of people that just watch the movies and just watch stuff that is like, you know what I mean? That's not just like kind of tether. It's like really connected, like Disney pushes it. That's the only thing they know. And that's the only thing they recognize. So like for those people, you still need to kind of set this character up and like build up why he's a big deal. And so I think they did a really good job of that.
They literally put him at the head of a criminal organization that can now spread, and going as far back as before the blip, right? And establishing that he's been here since after the blip. He didn't get blip. Like Kingpin was one who set Ronan up, and as Clint Shredder. And, he manipulated him. That's what his power is. He has information. And this is classic Kingpin, because this is what's happening in the comics right now. I mean, Kingpin just gave a monologue about this in, Devil's Reign, right? His thing is just having files on everybody, knowing things, having the information, being able to work people. And they did that in Netflix, but in this, it looks like Kingpin's on a whole other scale. Like he got Clint Barton to kill people as Ronin and, do all kinds of crazy stuff. He got Echo trained and is invested in her. He's got several gangs. He's got Eleanor Bishop and probably Val. Who knows what else is going on here? Like, so Yeah, I mean, he's already a big bad in the MCU, and we've seen Jim Viscardi, producer Jim Viscardi, has crept into the comments. He's entered the chat, and he says, and I'll read it. He says, "I love the reveal of Kingpin as a grainy cell phone video. Feels like a meta commentary on spoiler culture. Disney was like, oh, you want to reveal? Fine, we'll give it to you how you're used to getting them. And meta is a word. Meta is a word we are going to talk about for Hawkeye this week. For Spider-Man is a big thing I'm kind of on. And no, what's your name? Oh my God, I can't believe I'm blanking on your name. Zuckerberg, you don't own this word now. So we're going to talk about the old school meta, not the company owned meta. So we're going to talk about how Marvel got really meta this week in a lot of ways. And so, yes, it is funny that is a grainy cell phone video that's the leak we get about, D'Onofrio being back. So excellent observation from Jim Viscardi there. But yeah, Hawkeye is really, it's catching up on Loki to maybe edge out and be my favorite Disney Plus series this year, because it has been just really a fun, I think overall, powerful and fun watch, and some great character work.
And someone mentioned it in the comments, but like that blip scene,
yes,
was so well done.
Yep.
But it was the way it was done.
Yeah. For a second, you didn't know what happened. You're like, hey, what's going on here? And then you're like,
so
oh.
And I look, Elena is just, I said it before, right? Like Florence Pugh, like that was one of the reasons I was so excited for the series. And I will take 6 episodes of them eating macaroni and having stuff between them. Like I will just watch that. That is all I will watch. But like Elena's so charismatic. Like there's just so much that happens. This episode, like, look, I already said last time that this series was my favorite. This episode, all this did was just like put it comfortably ahead. Yeah, I was like, they can't. The last episode would have to, like, I don't know, bring Cardiac in and then shoot him for me to hate.
Oh my God!
Okay, like that's what it would have to do.
Oh no!
That's what it would have to do for me to hate the series. Like it's firmly ahead. It's so good, and I can't believe that I'm saying this about a Hawkeye series.
It was always the heart and soul of Avengers.
No.
I try to tell you guys these things.
No, he wasn't.
I get so exhausted trying to tell you guys.
This made him that. He needed a series.
It just
to do that.
Presented what was already there. And
Hawkeye
was inside of us the entire time.
We're not Snyder cutting this. Okay,
there are revisionist history. This entire time.
No. Give me that trash.
That guy was inside.
That's not happening.
And yes, okay, a couple things, because we are going to move on to the big topic of our show. Yeah, Eleanor Bishop, her backstory is shady. Clint's wife, she's Mockingbird, right? Like, she is 10 toes deep. Like, I've been married and with my wife for 22 years. We don't have, we never did missions together. So there is another level to this that I feel like is... Because even we are not like the way these two speak.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm like, you guys,
Which is another awesome thing that they worked into the show.
Yeah. So, that and but I maintain that Tony Dalton is so freaky in Better Call Saul. Like, if you've seen that show, the guy who plays Jack Duquesne is such a freaky villain that he's got to be shady. I don't buy it. I'm not free Jack. I still buy that Jack is shady in his own way.
Yeah, I'm
going to maintain that. Jack is my favorite. No, I'm just kidding. But he is shady in his own way because he was
way too calm for being arrested.
Dude, he's so freaky in Better Call Saul. Like, that's the only thing they hired him for. So, because he's a smiling lunatic in that show. Like, he's a smiling psycho, and I don't doubt that that's what he is here. So, all right. So, that's Hawkeye. This is it. Here we go.
Is this it?
We're going. It's time for Spider-Man No Way Home. Janelle, you can remove your headset.
No, it's fine.
Are you sure?
No.
Yes.
To you.
You already made me watch that thing.
I made you watch a trailer, so we can talk about the trailer. The trailer's just a trailer. But we'll talk about Spider-Man. We'll talk about it all at once. So all I did was make you watch a trailer. So here we go. Spider-Man No Way Home. Spoilers. Rich, drop that thing if we have it up, because we're
spoilers.
I don't want to get blamed for anything.
Spoilers. You know what? I'm going to type it in the chat too for our lurkers.
Yeah. Do we have a Spider-Man spoiler alert on here? I know we have to, right? Oh man.
Well, I think everyone's getting the message in the thing. Okay, so we're
swing some webs because it's time.
No Way Home spoilers. Okay, so first, everybody good?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're good.
Last one. Spoiler alert. Here we go. Spider-Man No Way Home. So first, yes, there is a part of me that wishes that we could go back a year and cast a spell to erase everybody's memory when the leaks broke. Because there is a part of me that would have loved this pure. And I actually, little known secret, I actually avoided all the online spoilers that flooded out the last week or so. I managed to dodge all that. And it doesn't matter. Like, we had heard everything for so long that like everything was already out there. And part of me wishes that we could have all been pure, because this would have been like the ultimate surprise of a century. That said, knowing all that did not ruin this experience.
Not at all.
In the least. Because what I didn't expect, and this is why I wanted to come back to the word meta, is what I liked about No Way Home when I digested is beyond all the fan service, beyond all the spectacle, beyond all that, there is a deep kind of comedic dramedy here, like a dramedy here about, in a very meta commentary about what it is to make these superhero movies, to do these franchises, and what the cost of that is, you know, personally, you know, professionally, on screen and off screen. And there's a very deep kind of examination out of all of that in this movie. And especially when the other two Spider-Men come into it, right? Like, and that stuff is so good. It's just so good. Yeah. All the sly kind of comedic subtext about what these actors have been through. And this got me in a really personal place, because the original Spider-Man movie came out when I was in college, and it was at a time that I went to college and, you know, I had a scholarship. Anyway, my thesis was, you know, superheroes and superhero mythology as the next big thing in popular culture entertainment, this was in 1999, 2000. So Spider-Man came out right when I was completing all this, and I was like, well, shit. Because I spent all this time writing this theory, and then this movie comes out, and when it shattered the box office, it was like, well, now that I don't have to argue this theory, everybody knows now. Like, okay,
right.
So here we are. So 4 years of great time wasted, but it was that magic of seeing that happen that really affected me. Now, cut to 2010s, and Amazing Spider-Man was the first time in this industry where I finally got in a place where I was getting the access, and we were getting the respect that I was getting to the junkets. And so I got to do both of those junkets for those films. And I got to meet like Andrew and sit down with Emma and do all that. So that was professionally for me, that was also a very personal place. That was like the first big, like, wow, like we've made it thing. So seeing all that come back in this movie was like, yeah, really emotional. Just like it brought back so much and just so much. And I was able to see just so much, especially from Andrew, who's, I mean, I pinned this to the top of my Twitter feed because I was joking months ago when I said I took one of our headlines and retweeted about Andrew Garfield denying that he was in the movie. And I said, and I re-quoted that tweet and said something like, I said, sometime after the premiere, Garfield would add, I am the movie, like, and as a joke. And this was like back in early November. But I was like not wrong.
He really is the movie, though.
It really is the movie in this.
Yes.
And
oh my God.
And again, like just knowing the behind the scenes stuff and having interviewed him and seen him and how much he went through Amazing Spider-Man, how excited this dude was. He came to Union Square and surprised us all from the previous screening when we just got to see the first 10 or 20 minutes and rushed the theater in a Spider-Man outfit, whipped off the mask and was like, hey, and like came. I mean, this dude was the man. And to see the shake he got in that franchise and how that fell apart and like how hard that was on him. Like, and seeing him get to kind of do that in this movie, oh man, yeah. Like,
well, you know, you bring up a good point, right? Because like I remember getting a lot of heat when I said the first Amazing Spider-Man is like one of my favorite movies. Like, I love that first movie because I feel like that's actually the movie that got Spider-Man the most right. Like, I really enjoyed that. Like, problems with story or whatever aside that people have, I understand it.
The portrayal is there,
but like, man, he is Spider-Man. Like, to me, and the quipping and like, it's perfect. Like, I always felt like I like those movies. So one, I'm already seeing, by the way, because we talked about it earlier, I'm already seeing the bandwagon jumping of, oh, Andrew, this is always Andrew, and I'm like, where were these people years ago?
Seriously.
These are the people that have been complaining and been like, nah, and like, I don't want to hear that now. You know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of like over that. So we're gonna get an influx of that. But I was so happy it's one thing. The reason why I was very much into the leaks, I knew all like I was like, if there was a leak on Twitter, I'm probably gonna look at it. Like I was like, yeah, looks fine. So like going into this, I was impressed because we actually had this on the show. I think it was last week or the week before, where we were like, is it going to live up to the hype? And my answer to that is obviously yes, it did. But the reason it did is because it didn't rely on the surface level of, oh, hey, these people are here. It went deeper with all of those people. And so, like, you know, there's a scene where Andrew is talking about, you know, like Peter, I'll go say Peter 1, Peter 2, Peter 3. But like, and Andrew is talking about, you know, like the effect that Gwen's death had on him. And like he's relaying to Holland. And he's talking about that. The scene when he saves MJ.
Yeah,
it's not that scene.
Oh my God.
It's his where he's about to cry right after it. And she asked him if he's okay. Everyone was so rooting for that because he was just like, there's real stuff there. When he says, like, man, I've never had brothers. Like, there's so much that they did with that, playing off of his history. And when he's talking about, like, I just stopped pulling my punches, like, there's so much depth there.
He made me cry so much.
Yes. So that's why it lives up to the hype. It's because they did something with it. They didn't just go, hey, here's a bunch of cameos. They actually went in. The Doc Ock moment. There's another one with Toby, right? They go deeper than the surface. So that's, if it had just been, hey, these people are in a big fight scene, I don't think it would have. But it's what they did with all the other under stuff that really sold it, that really pushed it home. You cared about these people, not just as, oh, hey, they were in a movie once. You cared about them because they were people, and they were the people you remember, and like, oh man, there was some really great stuff. Like, kudos to them. And like, I know I saw Tom Brevoort was talking about like how they had this, Feige presented this 2 years ago at a presentation of like, here's what I want to do. And he was like, that was bonkers to me back then. And he laid it out exactly how it is in the movie. And that's just like, if we ever talk about, you know, Feige we trust, that's the kind of stuff we're talking about because he pulled it off, right? So,
Nicole, I want to give Nicole, because I'm not sure how you are on time. I know you.
I'm getting close, but
I want to let you go off. Please go off.
Oh my God. So, as anybody who has followed me on Twitter in the last several months has figured out, I was a huge Spider-Man fan in comics. The One More Day storyline killed that for me and actually made me break up with Marvel Comics for a very long time. So for me, and I've actually, true fact, I've never seen any of the Holland Spider-Man movies in theaters. Because of this reason, I've been so mad. So when I saw this was going to have a One More Day possible element to it, and they were going to bring back, you know, possibly bring back these other Spider-Men, I was very skeptical. This movie does for those especially Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, which, oh my God, I sat in my car and cried after this movie so hard because he is the movie. You are absolutely right. Like, I'm going to cry now. Like, it's just beautiful. But what really did it for me is that this movie took this storyline from comics that is just very controversial. A lot of people hate it. It finally not only made sense, it presented it in a way that opens so many crazy doors, but it gave so much humanity to it. Like the movie, you know, at the end, you know, Holland's Peter does have to ultimately choose to make everyone forget him in order to save everyone. And it's this beautiful choice. He's finally found his brothers. He's got these other Spider-Men. He's lost his Aunt May, which killed me. He's got the people who love him. He needs the support more than ever. And he makes the very grown-up choice, probably one of the first truly adult choices we see Holland's Peter make of sound mind in this. And he makes this very selfless choice to One More Day things without a Mephisto element. And for me, it just brought everything wonderful about Spider-Man as a character back. And I literally cannot say enough beautiful things about this movie. I mean, I got redemption for Andrew Garfield. I got to see his character and the development of those characters. You get to see what the impact of trauma and grief does and how people process that, but in a healthy way. And I think that's really important with superheroes, especially Spider-Man, because there are so many different ways you can see Spider-Man. And Garfield catching MJ in that moment where he's crying and she asks if he's okay. I was not okay in that theater. No one else was okay with me. The power and responsibility line was perfect. This movie hit every single note that it needed to. And I really wish that I could like brain bleach myself or call Doctor Strange and be like, can you just erase it from my mind? I want to go back and do it again for the first time. I want to just go to an infinite loop of seeing this for the first time over and over again. But if anybody who saw the idea that they were going to have one more day aspect of this thing and were a little concerned about how that might play out, this movie redeems that storyline so completely, and it makes it make sense in a way that I never thought was possible. And we did it without Mephisto. Which brings the question: do we need Mephisto? Oh, I hate that story.
That storyline sucks.
Run so hard.
I actually had avoided anything when I saw that. I didn't know that was part of the movie because I had avoided that.
God.
So when I saw that at the end, I was like, no way. I was like, you're not going to know one more day this thing. I was like, they're going to one more day this thing. I was like, they one more day this thing.
But they did it in a way that wasn't horrible like the comics. And I was like, I went back and forced myself to read the comics that made me hate Marvel for like a decade. And I was like, if they do this the way they did the comics, I'm going to riot. And I'm like, oh no, this makes sense.
Though we all know that was editorially led. And it was a very stupid decision led from that.
I don't care who came up with the idea. Whoever that person is on my list. So,
but what I got to say
hurts my soul.
But I want to go to the deeper things. Like there's not only do they one more day it, but it is a very complex. The thing I love about this is the complexity of the ending, because they make it a weird kind of thing where it is kind of uncertain whether Spider-Man's presence in these people's lives is truly like a corrosive thing, because that's what he thinks. I mean, he looks at the end and that's his determination. Like, without me here, they are safer, better off, normal, happy lives. That's what I want for them. That's why he makes the sacrifice. And you get that, which is a completely messed up thing to start thinking about. Like, maybe being around these people is bad and like, not good. And like, oh man, that's kind of a messed up, like you said, a grown up thing to begin to weigh on your mind.
It gives it a real opportunity for us to start seeing, if we get to see more of Holland's Spider-Man, because it gives an opportunity to really see that character kind of explore himself in a way that we really haven't got to see, because he's been either hiding his secret or trying to deal with the fact that everybody knows his secret. Now he has a chance to know himself. In a way that's just amazing.
Leave it to Kevin Feige to fly in the face of all convention and pull off like the impossible. He made the biggest, craziest Spider-Man movie ever, simply to reduce Spider-Man back down to a small character in a new franchise that's going to be much smaller than anything, because they can't go bigger than this, right?
Oh, no.
Because that's a question people were asking after this. How do you go bigger than this? And it's like, we don't.
You don't.
And people love him for it. Now, and it's like, make the biggest, craziest Spider-Man movie ever, and people love you at the end for making the smallest, simplest Spider-Man reintroduction ever. Yeah. Because people when people saw him move into a tiny apartment and put on that classic red and blue suit, they went nuts in the theater. And there was like, you could now do a $60 million budget Spider-Man movie and like people will love you for it. And that's like the genius of Kevin Feige.
Truthfully, that's the movie a lot of us, including myself, have wanted. Yeah. So we're finally there to the point where we can have that. And I agree with Nicole, by the way. I feel like this is the best performance as Spider-Man from making adult decisions, making real decisions that feel very Spider-Man-esque. You know what I mean? Like they feel that way, and that's always been part of the fun of that character. It's just, that tagline is not a tagline. That tagline means something to that character. So I'm excited in a way that I have not been excited for Spider-Man movies in the past. I'm excited to see what the next one is, and that is something the last two have not done for me. So I am very happy with that.
Nicole, I know you got to go. You got to handle real life situations. So I want to thank you for dropping by and lending us. And you get a closing word if you want to, because you can always read Nicole's wonderful work on anywhere we do DC, Marvel, comics, anything on Comicbook.com. But final word for all the Spider-Man fans you want to share before you take off.
This is the best Spider-Man movie I've ever seen.
All right, there you go. Boom.
I'm just throwing it down right there. Take my money. Yes.
Enough said. Yeah, we're gonna have to end
Thank
this
you
with
guys
some
for having me.
rankings. Oh no, thank you for coming and lending some class to this whole thing. So
You
have a good day.
All
right, bye guys.
All right, so yeah, I want to say, going back to what you were saying, Matt, is something you were saying. The lines that are delivered here, especially from Toby and Andrew, what John Watts and the script writers and Kevin Feige did so well. Because what's so meta about all of this is you have to remember Kevin Feige was a guy who was in the room for a lot of these Spider-Man conversations. Like he had to sit there and listen to all of these before he got to make these movies.
Yeah.
And these decisions that were made. And he had to be quiet about a lot of things he didn't want, probably agree with or go with. So this is kind of a weirdly validating movie for him as well. But there's so many lines in this that are just like double and even triple entendres, because there are things that Andrew and Toby are saying that are both about their characters, but also about them as actors and off screen. Like Andrew's stuff is so heartbreaking because that's real emotion. Like all of the weird emotion he had after this weird Spider-Man thing when Holland got cast and his stuff got paved over, he brings to this, and you can see it. Like when he's saying, I stopped pulling my punches and I got, like, that's Spider-Man talk. But when he starts saying, like, I got bitter, like I got angry, like, I got depressed, that's real stuff. Like that's real Andrew Garfield talking to you, like saying, and there are things like when you're saying, and like people in the comments, Damon Streams is saying, when they're saying you're amazing, and Toby says to him, like, you're amazing. And he says it over and over. And he goes, thank you. I needed to hear that. Like that's real meta stuff of him, Tobey Maguire, like the OG GOAT Spider-Man, telling him that in him as an actor feeling that validation and saying, thank you, I needed to hear that. And there is a big thing of Garfield getting to play with his brothers and feeling that love. That's so real in this and just like so awesome. And there's so many of those lines in throughout this movie that, because this whole homecoming thing, John Watts has been obviously a comedian, and like there is so much good comedy in this movie about, like I said, this movie to me is really, as somebody who's been really connected to the Spider-Man franchise as first a fan seeing the possibilities, then as a professional coming up and seeing the kind of mess of reboots and the Marvel and not Marvel line and all of that stuff take place. And then, even Holland's thing almost falling apart and just seeing this movie come out. There's a lot of humor that I just take away from this and cannot stop laughing about. It's just that they would address in just such a spectacular big budget movie fashion with these three. And it's just so good. And so powerful if you know this. And just Toby Spider-Man just kind of giving him the look when he just giving him the look, because that was like, Toby's look was just such a famous thing. And just him giving it to Andrew, like, come on, when he's just trying to stab, Green Goblin and just standing there, like all that stuff was just really great. I'm going to put it out there, though. I like No Way Home as my second favorite Spider-Man movie. I still think Spider-Verse is my favorite, just because of the presentation. I mean, there's something about the way that movie is created and looks like a living comic book that I think you can't get in live action. But this is a very close second. And, I'm not going to be mad at anybody who ranks one over the other. But Jamie Foxx's whole, and the villain stuff too. We haven't talked about the villains in this, but man, Willem Dafoe is still got it and is still so freaky. The fight with him and Holland in the middle of this movie is made Green Goblin scarier than I think I've ever been scared of Green Goblin. Like, he was kind of funny and goofy in the original Raimi Spider-Man with the suit, and we were just getting comic book movies, but no, this movie made him seem like, Norman Osborn, Willem Dafoe could really still hang as an MCU villain. And
I feel like this also showed like his scenes, especially the scene, the scene where like Holland's about to lose it and like he's just punching and right. Like I think this is also a thing of, if you compare Dafoe's Goblin to other MCU villains, it's kind of a pale comparison aside from like the top of MCU people. Like he puts 80% of MCU villains to shame. It's not even close. I mean, there's just it's just something to his performance and the way he like commands a scene, and he feels like a threat at all times.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite villain scenes ever in a Marvel movie is when Peter's like when they're all in the apartment and Peter just begins to feel the danger around him.
Yeah.
And he just starts looking around and he just realizes how screwed he is because that he's fallen in a kind of goblin's trap and he's like, oh crap. And that whole sequence. And man, and then also, I mean, there's so much to unpack in this movie. We're never going to be able to have the time to do it all, but like this movie is stacked with people who are actually like really Oscar level performers, right? Like, or on their way to becoming like
just on the villain side.
Yeah, just on the villain side. Like, yeah. You talking me Jamie Foxx, Alfred Molina, Willem Dafoe, just like, yeah, man. I mean, I think Rhys Ifans has even been up there before in like award categories. Like all of these guys are just really talented performers and seeing just the level. And it kind of hammered home when Marissa Tomei, who we've all, since My Cousin Vinny and her win, like you forget how good she is, but what
she's been underutilized in this series.
And what a death scene in this. Just, oh my God. I knew she was dead as soon as it happened. And I just knew, but you still want to hope in the way she just seems fine for a minute before she just kind of goes down. It was just, that broke. And she's so good in this. And she was such a good May in this kind of, hot Aunt May, like RIP, but like what a legacy. And just the casual way that Marvel has just brought back Daredevil this week, right? Like,
yeah, I know. Just like the nonchalant, like when you're trying to give bad news to someone and you just kind of slip it in between, like, oh, hey, by the way, I got the oil change. Yeah, I did this. And then you just slip in something terrible. Like that's how they slipped that in. Just like, hey, everyone's just, chilling and we're like talking about this thing and oh, hey, here you go. And it was just like, oh, yeah, that's gonna
Charlie Cox back to Daredevil.
Yeah, that's gonna be a huge deal.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. As a law student, one of our commenters, Kay Sit said, as a law student, I screamed. Man, but no, the line was perfect though, because Matt Murdock is talking to Peter Parker, giving him legal advice when his identity is exposed, and somebody throws a brick through his window, which of course Daredevil catches. He says, "How did you do that?" And he's like, "I'm a really good lawyer." Just like such a lawyer line, but so great. But Daredevil's back. That's a thing. So another worst kept secret, but now it's here. So Daredevil and Kingpin are back in the same week. The MCU just got a whole lot bigger, and they both were brought back. Kevin Feige is just messing with us at this point, bringing people back so nonchalantly. And as people point out in the comments, this movie does a really good job also of kind of really honing in on the echoes of tragedy across Spider-Man. Like Goblin killing May is like it is a weird echo because of how Tobey's Spider-Man kind of saved her from that, right? There's also questions about Uncle Ben now, right? I got a lot of questions about Uncle Ben after this movie. Like, because I'm not crazy because I don't think Holland Spider-Man seems to like know a whole lot about Uncle Ben or his death or like all of that, because it seemed very different when he talked to the other Spider-Man from the other universe. So that's a whole thing. But I liked that they shifted Uncle Ben's role to May in this, and that she is the power of responsibility. It's her in this. It's not him, and she's just some like female caretaking stand-in. She was like the actual force in his life, and I kind of really like that for her too. But let's talk future. So let's talk the future. Janelle, you can get on this. First up, we got Doctor Strange 2 coming up, right?
I heard my name.
Yes.
I had you muted, so you'd be so proud of me.
Okay, so Doctor Strange 2, we saw the trailer.
Yes, I did see the trailer, not in English.
Scene. It's a post-credit scene. It's the end credit scene for Spider-Man No Way Home. It's a trailer for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. So let's just get to what we see. We get to see Wanda's involvement. We get to see the multiverse problem. We get to meet America Chavez.
Baby. Here it is.
And I mean, it's all out of the bag now. Shuma Gorath, right? We actually see Shuma Gorath and see that. But it seems like it's not going to be that simple, because there is Shuma Gorath, but the big reveal at the end of the trailer is it's more than that. There is also an evil Doctor Strange, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so who is this evil Doctor Strange is a big question. Some people, of course, we have Mephisto theories already out there. And some people are wondering if this is tied, if this is, some Strange Supreme from What If.
Yeah, it
not.
Seems that way to me.
if it's not, it's complicated to keep making more evil Stranges.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I don't
but
know how
he's
that's
good
going to go.
now, kind of, sort of.
Well, eventually.
Right, but I'm saying, like, if they were to bring in the what if part, see, that's where it gets confusing because you don't know exactly, because now the MCU has set up their own spinning stuff of original whatever, right? So it's not just like pulling from comics. So you're kind of like, okay, well, is this pull from what if? Is this pull from your own little tethers, or are we looking to the comics for this? That's interesting, but I feel like the what if Evil Strange was kind of turned towards the end, you know what I mean, to be more of a hero or a positive force anyway.
Yeah,
so I don't know.
It could just be an evil. I mean, there's also evil variants all over the place,
right?
Like, so all we need is another evil variant. I mean, it's not hard.
And then we could bring the other variant in, and he could be like team up with our Doctor Strange.
Then Matt Murdock comes in and saves the day. And
I mean, the more Doctor Strange is, the better.
Mordo's back, but I was happy to see that this movie's going to have because I was kind of worried that Mordo's being left out or was only going to play like a minor role. But it seems like Mordo's going to be in this, and that's kind of cool. Oh, Wong is a Sorcerer Supreme now. We found that out in Spider-Man. So many things just dropped on you in that movie. Wong is a new Sorcerer Supreme. Well, because Doctor Strange got blipped, and so that's a thing now that'll have to be, I'm sure, worked out. But it was good to see Wanda and kind of like, Doctor Strange, and just good to see. And it was also more meta stuff because, of course, it's Raimi. So we had to end this Spider-Man movie with Raimi's next movie. And it looked crazy, and visually it kind of looked pretty stunning, right? Like it looked even more stunning than something like Inception and crazy stuff like that. And so did that Doctor Strange fight in Spider-Man, by the way. Crazy visuals on that. I can't imagine what they worked out for Multiverse of Madness. But visually, Nolan, all that folding city stuff in Inception's looking mad dated. This is just kind of crazy. So Doctor
Damon
Strange
has like a
ton
of good points.
Oh, what's he saying?
It wasn't Strange Supreme, right? He didn't have his big cloak. He also didn't have the cloak of levitation. So technically in that, I don't know. That's actually going to be really interesting to see. Can I just say, like, I wasn't in the theater when I watched this, but it just wasn't like, I was just kind of like, oh, okay, cool. Like, none of it felt spoilery to me, obviously, so like, I'm not, people are like, oh my God, you didn't, do you feel upset that you didn't see it in the theater? I'm like, no, I'm going to see it in the theater. I'm probably going to watch this thing like 15 times. Like,
right. Yeah. I mean, the trailer's going to be here like what, Monday, Tuesday? Probably.
The trailer's going to be dropping, and it's,
it's out here. That's why we put it here. But I'm psyched for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. That looks pretty sick. All right. Other post-credit scene, of course, we got to find out what happened with Tom Hardy's Venom and all this, which was my only kind of disappointment. But again, it wasn't, because I realized later on, like, again, if you're talking about this movie is a very meta commentary on the franchise of comic book and superhero movie franchises. So it's only funny that it would only fit the joke that Tom Hardy's Venom and all this is left sitting off in his own little sideline over in Mexico, and like related to all this, but not really related to all of this. It kind of kept out of it, and which was, again, funny meta thing. It's great that Hardy was down for that. I'm sure he got the joke. But of course, Venom gets warped back. He never gets in on the action. He gets warped back to his universe. But we now have symbiotes. And he leaves a turd behind. So that turd is going to turn into a whole symbiote problem in the MCU. So MCU has symbiotes now. And so this is what Tom Rothman and Kevin Feige were trying to tell you on the red carpet of Spider-Man No Way Home about what their relationship is between Sony and Marvel is, they can trade things, right? It's like trading cards in the schoolyard. Sony has a couple things, but Marvel may want to borrow some things. It may not always be a Spider-Man like a major character. It might just be like, hey, we want to play with symbiotes. Okay, we'll do this little thing, and now you can play with symbiotes. Okay, and so that's good. My big question, and we got to end on this, my hope is, I think now that it's multiverse established, and from the overwhelming love, obviously Tobey Maguire is done, right? Like, he's old. He's moved on. He's a dad, dude. He doesn't need any of this. And so he did this for fan service, but he's old. But I think there's going to be a resurgence of Garfield, and I think that we should consider that. Like, I think there's going to be, Tom Holland's Spider-Man is clearly in the MCU. He's clearly going back to ground zero Spider-Man, right? He's got a new thing to play with and a new thing to do. but Venom's universe still needs a Spider-Man, right? And that whole Sony Spider-Man's universe could use a Spider-Man. And I would love to see Garfield come back and be that universe's Spider-Man again and get to do more stuff in that and have to do that. And even if that's the place where, I mean, there was a little setup, right? Because where Jamie Foxx and him are talking and they kind of tease Miles Morales. So there's got to be a black Spider-Man out there. Even if that's where we get Miles Morales in Sony Spider-Man universe, I think Garfield would be a good person to anchor that and help that and cross over with Tom Hardy's Venom and Jared Leto's Morbius and be part of the Kraven the Hunter thing. And like, I would love to see him back. And I'd love to see him there. And I would love to see Holland in the MCU. And I'd love to see crossovers happen again, you know?
Yeah.
Because it was a lot of fun.
I'm with you. I don't know how they make that work with the whole establishing that he's in the same spot as Holland
They
now.
literally just made a movie to establish the rules.
Right,
we
but
just
no,
saw
but
a
like
whole
the
primer.
last movie, they went, you know, like Venom 2 went, like made sure to be like, oh, hey, we're in the same universe as Holland. And like, yes, he does go somewhere, but like, I don't know. I don't know if they pull away from Holland being their core Spidey. I would love to see it. I would love to see more Andrew Garfield as Spidey, always. But I'm curious to see how they do that. What I'm actually would love to see Marvel do is if we're gonna have symbiotes in the MCU. I see. I don't know how it's murky because like certain characters are very Spider-Man characters as so far as legalities of like which ones they can borrow, which not. But man, I don't love this current Spider-Man used version of Flash Thompson as much. But I would love to see a Agent Venom take in the MCU of that character and from the one from the books. And so I would love for them to kind of run with that. And that way you're getting two kind of very different versions of Venom in either side. You know, like they can run with this one and you can have things with S.H.I.E.L.D. and whatever.
I'm kind of curious. Cool. I'm kind of curious if they're going to go with Holland Spider-Man getting the black suit, if there's a new Eddie Brock in the MCU that we have yet to meet, or they pull off Agent Venom, because I would also like to see that. But the Venom question is a big one, and the symbiote question is a big one. And if we get something like a King in Black, because there is Secret Wars and all this stuff could come back around, and we don't know what's going to be the end of this multiverse arc. So what happens at the end of that will be interesting to see. And I'm sure the fan reactions to No Way Home will help determine a lot of that, because they are making up as they go. So as Tom Ruffman says, we got to see how this puppy does, you know, like, and now this movie's out, we're going to see how it goes. But we could keep going. But like I said, we have a whole Marvel podcast. Phase 0, we'll be doing a whole in-depth episode with just nothing but No Way Home talk. So if you want to keep this train going, keep your eye on this Twitch channel or on our Comicbook.com, different platforms for podcast feeds this week, because, yeah, there's going to be a lot of Spider-Man talk. But that'll do it for Comic Book Nation. We're going to cap it right there and just say, again, thank you guys. We're going to be doing a couple more episodes before the end of the year, but this is going to come into the end of season 3. And I just want to thank you guys who have been on for this show, from everybody from Brywood, Danny the Pug, Cunning Linguist, new people like Damon Streams. There's so many Geek Fight. Like, there's so many of you guys who have been here over on, we also have Brian. We have people over on the YouTube, Brett over on Facebook. People have been running with us on YouTube this whole time. Like, and for the last year and a half, especially, I want to thank you guys for being here and geeking out with us. There's been so much limited content, limited joy to be had. And just having you guys in this community has been great. And we're so happy to be getting out and getting this big content and all this stuff to geek out of over again. So thank you guys. Enjoy everything this week. Enjoy The Witcher. Enjoy Hawkeye. Enjoy Spider-Man. Yeah, and we'll see you guys next week, because we got to talk Matrix. We got to talk a whole bunch of us. And I think we're coming back and doing a special episode just to go get lost in the Matrix. Yeah, be on the lookout next Wednesday, because we're going to try to drop that for you guys, because we're trying to get in a couple more before the end of the year and the end of season 3. But there's been Comic Book Nation. We're on your podcast platforms. We're on Twitch. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. Check us out. You can find us, and we'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Bye, guys.